Now it's back to being recorded. All righty. So,
You want me to cancel out of this and show you what I'm trying to do first?
well, hang on. Well, there's no need to really. Oh, yeah, cancel the command. Yeah, no need to exit the drawing. Yeah.
Right. So this is the proposed entrance, and they wanted an area. You see where I have those two X's. There was actually, well, there was a line drawn there, but I don't see it. Oh no, I'm sorry. It goes one down to here. It goes from all the way there past the entrance. I think it's 360 feet, as I recall, down to there.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I thought if I hatched that, I could label it and refer to it in the note about the highway entrance permit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. That'd be absolutely fine.
And then I can turn off when I go to the plat. I can turn off those point numbers because I don't need to show them over there.
Right, and you don't necessarily need the line work to be all that terribly heavy, too. There's, we'll maybe make it a lightweight dash line because the hatching will make it prominent.
Okay.
So, all right. So now you are.
And I've created a layer called line of sight, which all of this stuff is on.
Okay, so now does that, let me go ahead and get remote control request here. So, obviously you're going to be ending right down there, but, right here on either side. But what about these lines on down here? Does that easement go?
No, that's a different easement.
Okay.
See, there are actually two easements there. One is a road improvement easement that the county requires me to show, and then the highway department has come back and asked for this clearing easement, which actually accidentally coincides in part with the
road. With that road or road improvement easement, yeah. All right, so now the property line
is in the red one in the center of the road.
Is that red one? So this road improvement easement is a distance offset of that line, or is that the?
Yeah, well, this is the existing easement, this line and that line. And
I see.
Because what I'm doing is on this side of the road, they're making me add 10 feet.
Mm-hmm. And if the owners over here did something similar, they'd do the same thing. So
that's right.
Gotcha. Okay. So now, so that now what about, okay, that's all the way down, of course. Okay, got it. All right, so what we want to do then is we want to make this area hatched, like you said. And since we already have the lines drawn for that other easement.
Okay, now I've already drawn a line around that area called line of sight. So so there's more than one line
there. Yeah. Well, okay, but we don't actually need to do that because the same line can serve that's on the road improvement easement. And if you don't, if you do have it as two separate lines like you've got it now, you see how it shows up solid?
Yeah.
Instead of dashed.
So it only show up solid for that part that's the clearing easement though, right?
Yeah. But, well, I mean, let's take a look at it either way. All right. If we take this, I'm going to let me find that right here. We go. All right, so that is on that layer line of sight. Now, if we let me put that to. Do we have a layer already set up yet called? Yeah, I don't see one yet. Let's see. Well,
one that's
I don't
called
know where
what?
it is.
What were you
I'm
looking?
I'm gonna turn it off here just temporarily here. Let's see, let's turn it off, or hide rather. Okay, so now, so that point is the end of that. So if we just simply take a 2D polyline, we'll use this, we're gonna go from 252 to perpendicular to that line right there. Okay, so that's the bottom boundary. The upper boundary, now, does this have this fall? Oh, I see what you do. You're opposite those points. That's fine. Okay, but I don't even really need those. I can go from this 250, 253. Let's see, what is this one? Oops. All right, there's one. Okay, I don't really even need that either. The one that I hid, let me hide both of those. Get it here. Okay. So we'll then do that same thing. We'll go from 253 to perpendicular, this line over here. Now, the reason I was doing that is to show you that whereas I fully appreciate your thinking here, and that's a good way of doing that, but you don't really need to do those.
Okay.
I mean, as long as these are parallel to this red line.
Okay.
And so what we're going to do next is we're going to isolate just this line and those two little lines that I drew here. And then we're going to hatch in between. And, or actually, we don't even really need to isolate it. We could just simply pick the boundaries. Let's just do that instead of confusing everything. So if I'll let you do this, if you go to the to your draw hatch, just be a standard hatch. Okay, now several things that go on here. Here's where you're going to pick the the shape and the pattern, what color it goes on, whether it has a background color behind a pattern. Like if you see this right now, the color, this color is the color of well, it's not going to let you see it here yet, but that's the color of the lines or the patterns or whatever, the ink that's in that little patch, that's the color it gets. This color is the background color, and this would be, well, I thought they previewed that for you. But anyway, that would be like you had a solid green hatch behind whatever this one is. Normally, we don't complicate it with that, but sometimes we do. Like usually if I'm going to have a shaded area, that's really all I need is for it to be shaded. And I'll just, instead of using this, I'll use a solid as a fill. So, but anyway, I'll tell you about what these are going to do. So if you want to draw it with a pattern like the one you're seeing there, of course, you can pull down that pattern choice and choose whichever one that you would like, and one of which is solid. And I think it's all the way at the top. Depends on which version this software is. Yeah, there it is. So that's where you can set like a gray shaded pattern or something behind it and set various, you know, transparencies and that sort of stuff.
What do you
Or,
recommend?
well, you got a lot of line work, you got a lot of busyness. So I think if I were you, I would stick to the solid and let's see if we can make that show up correctly. All right, so there's going to be the solid and the color. Let's pull that down and let's change that to be by layer, just so that we can control it with that line of sight layer, I think. Let me think about this a second. Actually, no, I think I want to leave that line of sight to be white so that those end lines will stay on. So let's make this a specific, scroll down one more where it says select color. There you go. And let's select, say either the third or the fourth icon from the right on the gray shades, right up, yeah, like either that one. Yeah, let's try that one first and let's see if it shows up dark enough. Okay, we'll give that a try and we'll try it. And so we're going to say okay to that. Now, you've got a couple of other controls. I want to set these first and just so we can get it out of the way. But right immediately to the right of your icon, there's some options. And the annotative would be if you had a drawn pattern, then that pattern would scale itself. So if you ever plotted that at a different scale, the pattern would get bigger or smaller automatically. But we're talking about a solid, so that's not going to matter for us. Associative means when you create this hatch, whether it's a solid color or anything else, the boundary that it forms, in this case, we're going to be choosing those two existing easement lines and those two end lines. If we call it associative, then it's going to be tagged to those lines. Meaning if you select those lines or one of them and move it or add a point and change its shape, the hatch will change and grow and shrink and whatever with it. Likewise, if you have it set to associative, and if you should happen to delete one or more of those lines to where the hatch would no longer be a hatch, then the hatch goes away too. So in some cases you want it so that you can have it respond to where things change to. Sometimes it's pretty permanent, so you don't really need it. And in fact, I would uncheck it for now, just in case those lines ever got, frozen or turned off or however you want to do it. So this way it's only going to have a hatch. And we're going to rely on the lines that we're already seeing to serve as its boundary. Okay. All right, then the create separate hatches means if you were to pick imagine if you had a checkerboard and you picked like every other diagonal square when you went to pick a point, and it would hatch those in. If you did not have that create separate hatches, then you select any one of those and all of those individually separated hatches would come together as a unit. That's all that means. So, but we're only going to have one anyway. So now the draw order, we want to make sure that we send behind boundary, but pull that down. And I think, is there a send to back? That's what we want. We want to send it to the back. Okay. We want it all the way underneath. And then the layer, we're just going to say use current because we're on our line of sight. That'll be fine. And then the transparency, if we need to change that a little bit later, we'll do it. I think the light color will be sufficient for us. Now, if you were to ever run this command again and you had like a, concrete fill pattern on one part, you had some something that represented, say, a gravel area, and you had those things already drawn, that little inherit properties button, if you were to pick that puts this away and let you go out in your drawing and pick another hatch so it matches those properties and fills everything out for you. We don't have that right now, so we don't care. All right, now up on the upper right is what we call island detection, and it does exactly that. So if we were to pick either by selecting a bunch of lines that we want it to look at, or if we were to pick a point, that's that button to the left over there tells you, you would either pick an internal point or you would add the individual edges, okay? So if you were to pick a point, or if you were to select some edges such that it had shapes that were enclosed on the interior of that outermost closed boundary, then it does, it recognizes those as islands. You can think about those just like they're islands out in the pond or in the ocean or something. So it starts to hatch, it hits the first boundary and it stops, and it keeps looking inward. And if it finds another one, it starts to hatch again. And if there's another one inside of that, it stops, it just alternates it. The other one is the one in the middle, where it just simply stops at the first one it finds, if any, and the other one is to completely ignore them. Now the default is typically the one on the left where it says normal, but we actually would just say ignore, because we don't want it to, because we're going to leave some text on. We're not going to bother if there's any labels or stuff in there. We want it to not you know, draw that little shaded box around the text. And then finally, where it says boundary retention. Now, because we're choosing some existing lines and we've turned off our associativity, we don't really need to worry about it. But we could have that and it would create a drawn polyline or whatever type we chose to draw from the next pull down. And we could, you know, keep that as a separate line. But I'm inclined not to have it generate that line and have you to try to keep track of it, because you're going to want to freeze it and do all that kind of stuff, because it's, you know, it's going to superimpose over those easement lines, and we want their dash pattern to show up. So let's just leave that unchecked. And then finally, the boundary set, if you pull that down where it says current viewport, I forget what our choices are. Okay. Not sure here a minute. I mean, I think we're going to have to, well, I think what we need to do first before we do that, I'm not sure what that does exactly. It might be that if you're zoomed in too tight, you can't see all those lines that are off to the side, it won't calculate the hatch area. Let's see, let's go ahead and pull this over here so we can see stuff now. Go back up there to the middle where it says boundaries and see if you can click that button that says add select entities. Okay, now you see how it dismisses it and it's prompting you on the command line to select the entities. Yeah. So get that first one right there, just that line, click, and get that one.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, the two sidelines. Yeah, that. Is that the, yeah, go ahead, click. And then click that one. Now, are your easement lines separate?
Well, they weren't.
Hang on a second here. Oops.
Oh, that's another. That's another. See how solid that line is? That's another line of.
Tell you what I'm going to do. Just for a moment, I'm going to. All right, so this is everything on line of sight. So we don't need those, but for now, I'm just gonna hide them. And if I hide them, and if I restore the layers, there we go. I think that should work. All right. I'm just hiding those. What I would normally do, Michael, and we're going to do this after this speech, after we see that this is going to be acceptable, then we will actually erase them. Oh, I also want to, while we're sitting here looking at it, we've got this the point is on layer line of sight. So if I'm going to use line of sight as a layer to hold the hatch, I might want these points that you've calculated to either be on a layer that I could freeze separately, or if you could remember that you've erased them from your drawing but kept them in your coordinate file, that's fine too.
Yeah, that's
because we don't.
I would do it.
Is that because LOS is pretty? I mean, is that what you want to do, or do you want to put them on a different layer, or what?
No, it's just erase them.
I'm sorry, I can't. My furnace is going. I can't hear you. My hair.
Yeah, let's just delete them.
Okay, so yeah, just gather them up, or actually, since you're okay, that's fine. And you got those two there. There you go. Okay. Now, so now we have the lines that are going to form the boundary. So let's go ahead and run the hatch again. And it should have kept what we had. It may not have, but that's all right. We'll pick it back up. Yep, there it is. Everything's still good. So now we're going to select. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Right. Okay. So now you see the two choices over there under the boundaries thing in the middle.
Yeah.
Is you can pick an internal point, which means you would click a point that's not on any of those drawn entities, and it just looks around itself until it finds it. But we don't need to do that. We've only got 4 things that we want it to look at. So let's select those entities, and it will actually use yeah, right there. Yep. So you do that, it goes away. Now pick that little cross piece, and then those each of those, and then scroll all the way down to the other and get the other piece. So now you see if we had clicked in the middle, it would have stopped at the driveway edge and all of that. So now that's, once we're through selecting, just hit enter and it will come back out to the box. And what? If we change, let me see if we change this. Why isn't it previewing?
That's where I got stuck. I couldn't get any of those.
All right, there's a reason for it, and I don't know what's going on. Let's see here. If this is, that is continuous. And that's continuous. So this would form a closed boundary. I'm just wondering something here. If I were to, Draw a boundary polyline. Now this is the same. Well, actually, let me try this. You see how that line is in the gap?
Yeah.
Whereas mathematically, it touches the edges there. I just wonder if this is a visual thing and it's seeing that gap and thinking it's not an enclosed area. And we'll find that out with this right here. If we can draw a boundary polyline, which is, I thought it was that one, guess not. All right, just draw a B poly. Now let's see, it wants me to pick an internal point. So I'm going to pick, see, unable to find a bounding polyline at that coordinate. I'll show you a trick here. If it gives you an error like that, if you select that and copy it, so now I know that it finds a hole in my boundary. I want to know where that is. It tells me, but I don't want to type all that crap in. So I just selected it and highlighted it. Press escape to end the command. I'm just going to start to draw a polyline. And it wants to know where from. Now I'm going to paste and hit enter. Finds it right in the center. Well, see, that should be working. I'll tell you what the problem is probably. Let me try this in a minute. I'm going to pick a point and I'm going to turn snapping is off. Okay. There. Okay. So it worked. Now, here's what happens. And the reason that happened in that fashion is hatching is a visual thing. You see the extents of this and it's real skinny compared to how long it is. So if I select that end and these ends up here, you would think that it doesn't care if I'm way over here, it could still compute it, but apparently it doesn't. And it's been that way since it's been a product. And I don't know why that is. It has something to do with the math. So when we were down like this, see it couldn't find anything else out there, even though we had already selected it. You know, that's not a Carlson thing. It's not an IntelliCAD thing. That's just the way the hatch command works in AutoCAD, which IntelliCAD, of course, has to copy. So if we were to, let me undo that and that again, I'm going to select these four things. And if I say list, okay, so they're in my selection set. Now, if I run my hatch, I want to do it the same way that we started doing it. I'm going to, by picking this entity. So if I say select entities, and I'll just say P for previous, see, it didn't find it. It didn't create it, even though I'm looking at it here. And this really doesn't matter. So if I use a different origin, let's try that. No. All right. Well, sometimes I guess we just have to do the picking of the pick an interior point. Now that should not be that. That should be right there that we have you know, we can select those entities. For instance, if we have something like this, and it doesn't matter what it's, you know, what it's made up of. You could have any of this kind of stuff. And then if you draw a hatch for that, and you know, it does, those things don't have to be closed figures. They happen to be, but if I just select these entities, so you see what it did is it took the outermost, found that, came in here. So why did it ignore that though? Let's clear. So if we had, well, I'm not sure, Michael, why that's having some of the same problems, because that way we can certainly pick an interior point and it does what I'm expecting it to. Yeah, see right here, if you add select entities, it says it determines a boundary from the selected objects that form an enclosed area. The dialog box closes temporarily and you're prompted to select objects. So when I chose that circle, that rectangle, and that line, that is an enclosed area. So I'll tell you what would happen is if this were not if this were not closed, then picking those should find that the way I want. No, let's try this one. Well, certainly now. I'm guessing because those were closed figures. No, see, that should find that right there. Well, that's the way it's supposed to work. So sorry about leading you down the primrose path, as they say. But so here's what we needed to do and what we'll do. And I'm going to have you do it so you're familiar with the process. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show everything. What did I just do? Were those things?
No, they weren't like that.
All right, we're gonna close this and open it back up. Or did you make anything you need to save?
No, well, no, I don't think so. Do you want to do an REA and see what that does?
Yeah, it's a good thought. Yeah, it's just something about this. Something about because when we isolated it and then turned it back on, it considered that to be redrawing, so it recalculated those labels.
Okay.
That's an interesting thing. If you ever keep having issues like that, you might try your hand at this. Carlson configure. That's just link labels with line work. We might turn that off for for some time, but leave it as it is for now. All right, so what I want to do is I'm just going to close this and not save it and bring that back how we had it before. Is that it right there?
Yeah.
All right. So when this comes up, we'll walk through this again. Because you've already got those points calculated, and so we're going to first of all, let's isolate that layer where one of those points is on once it comes up. Do your view, isolate layer, or pick it off your toolbar, whatever. No, not freeze it, but all the way to the left, right there. So if you were to isolate that, make sure it's there you go, the LOS layer. Okay. And then hit enter. Okay. Now, at this point, let's just, we know we have point number 252, right?
Yeah.
And what's the upper point? 253, is it? Are they all the way up?
Yeah.
Okay, so then 253. Now, what about point number 41 off here to the right?
Oh,
Is that supposed to be?
got on the wrong layer by accident.
It's okay then. All right, so zoom back out a little bit, and I want to make sure. Okay, so you can actually just erase everything there except for your point 41. Leave him alone. Just draw a window around all that other stuff. Points, lines, everything. Okay, go ahead and hit the delete. Okay, now let's restore the layers, which is that button beside the isolate button. Okay, now let's draw. We are already sitting on the right layer, so let's go to draw a 2D polyline. And let's go down at the right above that where it says use current drawing properties. Go ahead and check that. Keep going up right there. Okay, now say okay. Now you want to type, see it's asking for a point or a point number. So the numbers that I wrote down was 252. So you want to type 252 and hit enter. Okay, now you see, so you can zoom in down there so you can get a little closer. And you see it's anchored to 252. Now you want to snap perpendicular. So there you go. And get that other easement line. Click and hit enter to stop. Okay, now you want to do the same thing. You want to just repeat the command. So just hit enter or go up, either one. Okay, and say okay. And this time you're going to go 253 and snap perpendicular across from it. Okay, and hit enter. Now, we want to isolate layers again, which is that, yep. And you're going to click once for the little end cap and then once for, and click one of the easement lines. Okay, and that's sufficient.
And hit enter.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, now, even though you got some other things, zoom out to make sure that you, looks like you've got a clear space in, but yeah, it looks like you're good. All right, so now we're gonna hatch, and we're gonna do it by picking a point this time. So draw a hatch. Now you can, that icon, if you don't wanna go to all that click, click, click up there, it's the third up from the bottom of your draw toolbar on the left. The one right above the pencil. There you go. So now let's go back to our pattern and choose, we'll pull that down and choose solid. Okay, and we're going to choose the color. Instead of by layer, we're going to set it. We're going to pick that 253 or whatever it was. And you have to scroll all the way down. There you go. Yep, we'll give it a shot first and see if it's dark enough. And we want to make sure that we our draw order we want to send to back, which is that pull down in the middle. And then we got the right layer. We got the transparency is set for current, so we can change it if we need to later. We do not turn it on as associative. That's all very good. We choose the island detection. In our case, it won't matter. I would just set it to normal so it stays that way for the next time. And now you go up to pick a point. I pick an internal points up the top. There you go. See, that's how you're setting your boundary. So now click in between those two easement lines. Yeah, just like that. I'm not sure if it'll go. Yeah, there it is. It got it. Okay, so it found it. And that's fine. So now you've finished picking a point. Now, don't do anything with this right now, but you see it keeps asking you to specify internal point. This is how you can do multiple hatches all in one go.
Okay.
You know, so, but that's good. We're done. So we hit enter. And that brings us back here. Now you see, that's just all we've done when we did that. We didn't actually create it yet. We have to hit the OK button to do that. And in fact, if you were to take this box and drag it out of the way, I don't know if it's still, yeah, it still shows you there, but you could preview it. And like if I were to go up here and change to, I could change this now to a different pattern and do all that, but, and I'll let you have the mouse back. So until you're ready for it, then commit with the OK button. Okay, so it's there now, and it's in the background. So let's go next to the layer restore, which was that one right there. Yep. And let's see how that plots. You know, you may need to, you know, draw a call out to it or something, but that's fine.
Should I draw the call out to it first or just see how it plots?
Well, it's up to you.
Let's see, that would be a draw text.
Yeah, that would be a draw text leader or multi-leader if they've got that choice for you here. I don't see either one actually. So,
text, multi-line, text on polygon. Okay, it's got to be, that's under survey text, isn't it?
No, you shouldn't have to do that. It's just a standard leader. It's, if you look at like these over here, that's what is this? That's sorry, that's just the arrow. Here's a leader with text. multi-liter, that's what you want. So if you choose that one. Okay, now, so here's your multi-liter. We're going to start, we're going to hide the drawing labels. We do want to turn on to use M-text, which is right there, yeah. And then where it says landing style over on the right, let's pull that down and choose that horizontal tick. Okay. Now the text will be 0.08. Arrow, the same deal. And you can either wait for it to prompt you for the text, which is what it says now, or you can use preset text. And if you choose that, then you would, let's say you had, let's say you were constantly doing this and typing in iron pen found and just got tired of doing that. Well, you could say check this, and then you could type in iron pen found over here and give it a name. And then, you know, if you put it here, and then all you would do is you could have multiple lines of differing text, and you would select the one you want to use at that given time. Okay, see how that works. But I'll leave it at prompt because you're only going to prompt it once. So go ahead and say okay.
Should I have double clicked in here so this was red?
Oh yeah, I guess we should have had. Go ahead and escape. I mean, you could still do it here, but then if this shifts, it's just on the paper. It's not in the drawing. So let's go back to it now.
Go back to here and go that one.
Correct. Or you could probably do it with, cancel that a minute. Let me see if it lets you do it in text with the other one. Multi-liter has multiple arrows possible, but let's go to 2 above. Right there. I don't think this is going to give it. Yes, it does. Okay, so there we go. So that's the only distinction, is it's not going to have multiple arrowheads. It'll just be the one. That's what we want.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't realize Carlson had those tools set aside over there. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And it wants you to pick the arrow location. So this is where the arrowhead's going to go. And right now you're snapping to those endpoints. That's fine. If you want to snap to a near point or put it in the middle of the gray area, you know, I'm not, however you want to do it. And now pick a location, and that's going to be where the horizontal tick starts. And now you're going to start typing your text, and you can't see it. I mean, zoom in there and you'll see it better as you start to type. Just roll the wheel in. And now go ahead and type. There you go.
Shaded have.
And if you,
is that how you spell shaded?
Sorry?
Is that how you spell
No.
shaded? SHADED?
Yes. Yes, correct. Oops, sorry. Yeah, just 1 D.
1 D. Okay.
Yeah, so double. Yeah, so shaded area. Okay. Yeah, do we need to actually call it an easement, or are you writing that up in a dedication of it or anything?
I should put it's a shaded area.
How
about if I put?
Let me think about this. You could, let's see, you call that brush clearing easement for lot 1, and then in parentheses shaded area. That might work.
Say that again. Oops.
Yeah, brush clearing easement. And I don't know if are you spelling out easement everywhere or just ESMT? Okay. Brush clearing, hang on a second. Brush clearing easement for lot 1. And then just, yeah, parentheses, shaded area. Close parentheses. Now select the rest of all that stuff and get rid of it. There you go. Now, brush clearing easement, do we need to call it line of sight, or is it understood that that is line of sight?
Probably should. I want to make it clear for the highway department so that they don't come back with another comment.
Yeah. All right. So then after easement, I would click, and so between easement and for lot 1, I would say, just like you did before, for line of sight. Yeah. And then for lot 1. In fact, I'd go, did you, I'm gonna take these hard returns out here because I'll show you why when we get to it. Now, and I can't do this here yet because my viewport's locked, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. So now there it is, all stretched out. Obviously, we're not going to leave it like that, but I'm going to go back here to my model space as it's not locked. And I'm going to reposition this a little bit better. So I'm just going to, get this a little bit closer like this. Carlson, come on. Seriously? I thought they would have kept it intact. Okay, well, that's fine. But because this is it's an M text, see, I can set this. There we go, look pretty perfect. Now if I set it like that and then come back and look at it, see, I was able to get it like that. There you go. Oh, wait. See how it normally these things stay connected as a single unit. For whatever reason, it didn't. I'm going to put this down just a little bit, give it a little bit. Nearest. Click, okay. Do we have tracking on there? It's supposed to. All right. So I'll put this up here and bring that out horizontally. Now let's take a final peek here. We're in model. We're now in paper. There we go. Boy, that's the one thing that I hate about working for local governments is, they always require you to have these really huge text sizes because quite often they'll half size stuff down for storage and for microfilming or whatever. So they want to still be able to read the text. And I get that, but it really takes away from your ability to make an attractive looking plat. But anyway, I digress. So that should do it, I think.
Yeah.
And let's see, did we also, if we put that on, that's on line of sight. That's on line of sight. So if we ever then need to turn it off in a particular frame here. And here's the other thing too, is that this file, you said you're going to, turn it off for a different purpose. You can have the one file. You don't have to make a separate copy of this file. You've got the one file. This is your plat. You could make another one that's for HOP permit. You can make another one that's for, contour map, whatever you wanted to call it. And you just control individually in each of those layouts what layers you're going to see visible. You leave them all visible in the model space. But while you're in, if I double click in here, I'm in this viewport, then I could, where was that line of sight, which is here. I could come over here where it says my viewport. It says current viewport. That's what that says under their current viewport. I'll say freeze it there in my current viewport. I'll probably have to switch off because it's also my current layer, but no, apparently it went away. Okay. And it put me at whatever layer. So you see, so it hides it, the shading, the little cross pieces, and the label. But of course, they're all still there. It's just that in that viewport, I've frozen that layer.
Right.
Now I will set that back for you. All right, so that was the line of sight, and we will thaw that. Okay. I will now go back to paper, and I'll let you save, print, publish, plot, turn everything in, and go get paid. Yeah.
Getting paid is a good thing.
It is. We just got word the other day. My my friend Colonel Ridenauer, that's my business partner. I'm doing all this work for the county sanitary authority, and of course we were a subconsultant to a structural engineer who was a subconsultant to HDR, which is a great big huge engineering company, and HDR told us, like, I did all of the 3D modeling for this big river wall, this sheet piling cutoff wall about a quarter mile long, all along the Allegheny or the Ohio River down by the treatment plant. And we had to we had to find rock layers under the ground and how deep to set the foundations and yada yada. Well, then somebody at the last minute, after we had all that stuff done, they said, whoa, there's a big interceptor sewer that runs underneath where you're showing that. How come you don't show it? And I said, because you never told us it was there. You never gave us the models. And they said, well, no, it's shown on the civil drawings. And I said, well, what am I supposed to be doing? Checking all of your other sub-consultants' work? It's, if there's something there, you've given us a list of everything that we need that's related to our work. So they didn't need to do it. So I had to go back and do a lot of revision, real fast, real quick, over a weekend. It was just a mess. So we put in a request for it, wondering if we were ever going to get paid at all. And so this was, I don't know, 7-8 months ago. And we got our check in the other day. So I think it was, gosh, close to 15 grand, I think. So
That's
finally.
About working for the government, they're slow to pay.
Oh, they are. But boy, they'll hold you feet to the fire for a deadline. So But anyway, so yep, like you say, getting paid's a good thing, and you know your plant's looking pretty good actually. I think I like it. So yep, make sure you're safe, do all that good stuff. Any others? Questions, issues?
No, sir, that does it for today, I think.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. I will again, I'll post the recording and let you know the link.
Okay,
All right,
Thank you.
Mike. Well, you bet.
take care.
You do the same. I'm trying to find my quit button here. Hang on. Let me make sure I stop my remote control just in case. And you shouldn't have to do anything with that, I don't think. All right, now I'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care.